My name's Dr. Liz Marks. I'm a clinical psychologist and a senior lecturer at the University of Bath. I started psychology with my undergraduate degree. I studied at Oxford University, and my favourite part of that was the mental health aspects of it. So I followed that into doing some mental health care support work for a year or two, and then I got an assistant psychology job working with adults with mental health problems. And then I did my training at the Institute of Psychiatry, which is part of King's College London. Since then, I've also taken more of an academic direction, and so I've been working at the University of Bath for the past 10 years, where I've been training clinical psychologists as well as working clinically. So for the first 10 years of my career, I worked mainly with people with physical health problems and supporting them psychologically. So I worked with people with pain, fatigue, tinnitus, hearing loss, sound sensitivity. And I did some research in that. So I did some work around mindfulness for tinnitus and CBT for insomnia. But over the last 5 years, I became increasingly concerned about and interested in the effects of climate change and the biodiversity crisis. And so I've changed the direction of my research, and I now very much focus on the psychological impacts of climate change on people around the world, but particularly young people. So I started with looking at the prevalence of distress related to climate change in young people around the globe. And we found that there were actually really high numbers of young people telling us that they felt painful emotions about climate change, as well as functional impairment, negative beliefs, and a sense of really being let down by people in power, particularly governments. So my work now very much tries to understand what the experience of eco-distress is like for people, particularly young people, and the different impacts it can have on their life. I'm really interested in the ethical and moral aspects of climate change and climate change distress, and have looked at how young people can feel quite betrayed and let down and angry about the failures of people with more power of them to act appropriately on climate change, and that really drives their distress. And I'm also interested, probably because of my background in developing therapeutic interventions for people with chronic health problems, in thinking about ways in which psychologists and CBT therapists can respond and offer support. I take this from a very clear point of view that eco-distress is not pathological, that it's an understandable and maybe even a healthy response to the reality that we are facing today. But it still hurts, it's still very painful. And just as when you're working with a chronic health condition, you can use very many of the same techniques, because in chronic health you are facing pain and suffering and no way out sometimes, but you can still help people find a life that is full of meaning and value and connection. And I'm really interested in finding ways to do that in the midst of this climate and ecological crisis. I would ask them what it is that they were most interested in and was most important to them, and then from that try and help them think about what it is that the AFTCC could offer. I find coming to places like this, a congress, a really exciting, energizing and inspirational thing, because you have people who are very passionate about their field, talking and teaching things that are really at the cutting edge. But you also have that wonderful experience of meeting all the other attendees at the Congress, sharing ideas, building networks, meeting new people, which really brings to life, I think, your clinical practice and your interest in the research. Just to say a very large thank you to inviting me here and to allowing me to speak in English and to offer translation. I feel very touched that the AFTCC is open to these quite new ideas around climate change and the role of psychology and CBT, and I think that's absolutely wonderful, so thank you.